everyone, I am Ardiani Saha. I am an MBBS student from Nepal Medical College, and in this video, I'll be discussing with you about a disease that is seen as a most common cause of glomerulonephritis in adult, and I am talking about Buerger disease. And the Buerger disease is also known as IgA nephropathy. So I'll be discussing about why it is called IgA nephropathy as well. So before that, why do we need to study Buerger disease? Because it is the most common cause of glomerulonephritis in adults. Most common cause of glomerulonephritis in adult is Buerger disease, and it is also the most common cause of cross and recurrent hematuria. And I'll be explaining why this is so in the pathogenesis of this disease. So I'll be discussing it as well. So stay tuned with me. So in Buerger's disease, as I said, it is IgA nephropathy. So let us discuss some points regarding IgA antibody. And as we know by the our information on immunology, so this IgA antibody, and this antibody is our mucosal antibody, because it is a major component of mucosal defense mechanism. So in which mucosa the IgA antibody is present? So it is a matter of fact that IgA antibody is present in all of our mucosa. Let us talk about GIT mucosa, or whether it be respiratory tract mucosa, or it can be any sort of mucosa. The IgA antibody is the major mucosal defense antibody that is present in that. Not just mucosal antibody, it is also a secretory antibody. So why it is called secretory antibody? Because it is being secreted in our body fluids, and like our saliva. So it is being secreted in saliva, it is being secreted in the breast milk as well. So hence it is also known as secretory antibody. So IgA antibody has two form of existence, and these two form are IgA1 subtype and IgA2 subtype. And it is a matter of fact that IgA2 antibody has no role in pathogenesis of Buerger disease, where it is solely because of IgA1 antibody. And whenever I'll be discussing about Buerger disease as IgA nephropathy, I'll be solely referring towards IgA1 antibody, right? And the next fact about IgA antibody is that it has two form of existence. So it can exist in the serum, and it can exist in the tissues. As I said, it can exist in the mucosa. So in the serum, the IgA antibody will be present in the form of a monomer. So it is a monomeric form. Whereas in the tissue, it will be present in the form of a polymer. So it exists in the polymeric form in the tissues, right? So whenever in the serum, serum basically I am referring towards blood. So in the serum, it is existing in the form of monomeric form. This is a monomeric form. But sometimes, due to excess production or due to decreased clearance, there can be polymeric form of IgA antibody, and this is, let us consider this is our polymeric form of IgA antibody, and this polymeric form is being continuously cleared by the liver. So this is our liver, which will take the polymeric from the serum, and eventually the serum will have just the monomeric form. And it is also important to know, because we'll be discussing it subsequently in the pathogenesis. So as I said, IgA antibody is a mucosal antibody. So it is a mucosal antibody because it provides mucosal defense. It is present in the mucosa of GIT, respiratory tract, and it is also called as secretory antibody because it is secreted in the saliva, it is secreted in the breast. There are two forms of IgA antibody. It can be IgA1 and IgA2 subtype, but IgA2 subtype do not have any role in Buerger disease. So it also has two forms of existence, whether it exists in the serum or in the tissues. So whenever it exists in the serum, it will exist in the monomeric form, but whenever it will exist in the tissue, it will be existing in the polymeric form. So now let us by this knowledge, now we should be starting with Buerger disease. So what happens in Buerger disease is that there is production of IgA1 and subtype of antibody, and this subtype of antibody gets deposited in the mesenchyme. So what sort of antibody? As I said, there is production of IgA1 subtype of antibody, and it is to be known that this IgA1 antibody is abnormal antibody, and there is a qualitative defect in this antibody. So qualitative defect in this antibody. And what is the qualitative defect? Is that this antibody is abnormally glycosylated. It is abnormally glycosylated antibody, and this antibody is known as GDIgA1 antibody, and GD stand for galactose deficient IgA1 antibody. So this antibody is responsible for pathogenesis of Buerger disease, and hence Buerger disease becomes the most common cause of nephritic syndrome in case of adults. So this IgA1 antibody, which is qualitatively defective, this is immunogenic in nature. Immunogenic in nature. So it is immunogenic in nature. And against this antibody, there will be production of antibody. So there will be production of antibody against this immunogenic antibody. So against this antigen, there will be production of an antibody, and this antibody will target this antigen, and hence there will be antigen antibody reaction, and this antigen antibody reaction gets deposited in the mesangium, and because of its deposit in the mesangium, it will result into inflammatory changes with mesangial proliferation, and this will manifest with nephritic syndrome in case of adults. But not just that, as I said, this IgA antibody, which is galactose deficient IgA antibody. So galactose deficient IgA antibody, as I said, it is itself an antibody, and this antibody can target antigen, and this targeted antigen is present within our body, and this will target CD71 receptors in the mesangium. So it can be that, so there can be increased production of IgA1, which is a galactose deficient IgA1, and this IgA1 will target the antigen, and this antigen is present normally in the mesangium. So CD71 receptor in the mesangium, because although the kidney is normal, but in the body there has been a defect, and the defect is that there is increased production of galactose deficient IgA1 antibody, and this antibody will target CD81 receptor, and because of this it can result into changes in the mesangium, and that will be proliferative changes in the mesangium, and that will manifest with nephritic syndrome. So as I said, there can be two way of pathogenesis. In first, as I said, in the first, as in this condition, there will be production of galactose deficient IgA1, and that IgA1 will be immunogenic in nature, and against that there will be production of there will be production of antibody, and this antibody is usually IgG subtype of antibody, and there can be antigen antibody reaction, and against this antigen antibody reaction, this antigen antibody will get deposited in the mesangium, and in the mesangium it can result into inflammation of the mesangium with mesangial proliferation, and that can manifest with nephritic syndrome. And the other cause, as I said, in some patient there can be increased production of galactose deficient IgA1 antibody, and this production of galactose deficient IgA1 antibody will target the receptor, that CD71 receptor, which is present in the mesangium, and as there will be antigen antibody reaction in the mesangium, the antibody being galactose deficient IgA1 antibody, and the antigen being CD71 antibody, CD71 antigen, and because of this antigen antibody reaction, that will be causing in the mesangium, and that will result into proliferative change in the mesangium, and this will result into nephritic syndrome in case of adults. So we have discussed about the pathogenesis on Bursar disease. So let us know a little bit more about it. So what happens in pathogenesis is that, so Bursar disease can be, so let us say Bursar disease, it can be either primary condition, so primary condition, or it can be secondary condition. So as I said, in such patient there will be increased production of antibody, and antibody production will happen, and this antibody is IgA1 subtype of antibody, and this is abnormal antibody in a sense that it will be galactose deficient IgA1 antibody, and this will target CD71 receptor, which is present in the mesangium, and that will result into mesangial proliferation, and that is the microscopic picture that we see in Bursar disease. So as I said, in Bursar disease what happens is that, so in Bursar disease it can be either primary condition or it can be secondary condition. So in primary condition it is an idiopathic condition, where we cannot know any cause, so it is presumptively believed that it is a genetic condition where there is increased production of IgA1 subtype of antibody, and that is galactose deficient. And the second condition is due to secondary causes. So what are the secondary causes? It can be due to any infection in the GI tract, so infection in the GI tract, for example, or any immune condition in the GI tract, for example, celiac sprue, celiac sprue, and it can be due to liver dysfunction as well. So liver dysfunction. So see, in this secondary condition, for example, celiac sprue, there will be an it is an inflammatory condition in the GI tract, and that will lead to increased production of IgA antibody, because the major defense mechanism of our body in the mucosal system is production of IgA antibody, and this IgA antibody will be abnormal, and this will be increased product. There will be increased production. So it is self-explanatory. And in case of liver dysfunction, there will be decreased clearance of the polymeric IgA1 antibody, and because of this increased polymeric antibody will exist in the serum, and as the serum will now have increased amount of antibody, so this antibody, why there is increased production of antibody, it can be due to idiopathic cause, as I said, or it can be due to any infection or any inflammatory condition or any mucosal inflammation, for example celiac flu. It can also be due to respiratory infection as well. It can be due to liver dysfunction, where there will be decreased clearance, and as a result of all these conditions, there will be increased production of antibodies, and this antibody will be filtered in the kidney. And during the process of filtration, or even due to the affinity of this antibody towards an antigen present in the mesangium, so this antibody will target the mesangial cells, because there is production of a CD71 receptor in the mesangial cell, and that will result into antigen antibody reaction within the mesangial cells, and because of this there will be mesangial proliferation with inflammation that will be manifesting with nephritic syndrome. So I hope you understand the pathology. So it can be primary, it can be secondary. So so now let us go fast on this. So we have already discussed all these things. So IgA nephropathy, it is also known as Buerger disease. It was first described by Buerger and Hinglace in 1968. We should not be knowing about that. Why it is called Buerger disease? Because of that reason I mentioned it here. Is the most common cause of glomerulonephritis most worldwide, especially in adults. And as we know, IgA antibody are two subtypes, IgA1 and IgA2. IgA2 do not have any role in pathogenesis, whereas IgA1 has a role in pathogenesis, and this IgA1 is galactose deficient. So only IgA1 can cause nephropathy. So pathogenesis, how does that happen? Is that as I said, I gave two mechanism for that. In first mechanism, I said that there is IgA1 antibody which is galactose deficient, and this antibody can directly target CD71 receptor in the mesangium. Or in the second case, I said that there is production of IgA1 antibody which is galactose deficient here as well, and against this antibody there will be production of IgG antibody, and this antigen antibody reaction will get deposited in the mesangium. So it can be either of the both. So as I said, in this immune complex contain IgA1 and IgG will be deposited in the mesangium by unknown mechanism, but now we know because of this CD71 receptor, and this immune complex will activate the mesangial cell, and that will result into increased mesangial proliferation, and there will be production of mesangial matrix with growth, and because of the cytokines, and the cytokine will also recruit the inflammatory cell, and that will result into inflammation, right? And because of this IgA antibody, this IgA antibody will activate the complement system via the alternate pathway, and because of this alternate pathway of complement activation, there will be presence of C3 deposit along with IgA deposit when we'll be doing immunofluorescence. So immunofluorescence study will show the deposit of IgA and C3 deposit, and this is typical of this disease. So now I think we are clear about Buerger disease and the pathogenesis of Buerger disease. So I would like to give the differential diagnosis while considering Buerger disease. Right? So in clinical scenario, it is not as we have seen in this case. So let us discuss certain clinical scenarios where we can be confused with Buerger disease and other disease as well. So we must know the difference between Buerger disease and Hinoz-Swanlein purpura. Hinoz-Swanlein purpura and Buerger disease both are mediated by IgA antibodies. Both are IgA mediated diseases, and especially whenever we are talking about Buerger disease, it is most common in adults, whereas Hinoz-Swanlein purpura is less common in adults. It is usually in children who are less than 20 years. So it is commonly manifested in less than 20 years. And in Buerger disease, as we saw, there has been a precedent injury in the mucosal, there can be injury to the liver. Because of that, there will be increased production of IgA antibody, and this IgA antibody has just targeted the kidney. So there will just be involvement of the kidney. So there is just involvement of kidney, isolated involvement of kidney. Whereas in case of Hinoz-Swanlein purpura, there is involvement of many tissues along with kidney. So there will be involvement of the kidney. Along with that, there will be involvement of the skin, which resulting into purpuric rashes. There can be joint involvement, and there can be abdominal pain as well, and in very rarely it can cause involvement in the central nervous system as well. So these are all the involvement about Bursey disease and Hino's-Sonnlein purpura. So let us discuss about Hino's-Sonnlein purpura. So it is also acute IgA mediated disorder, and it is a generalized vasculitic disorder which usually involves small blood vessels, especially of the skin, GI tract, and kidneys, and also the joint, and very rarely, as I said, it can also involve the central nervous system, and it will also involve the lungs. And it, as I said, is less it usually occur in less than 20 years, and the most common age being 3 to 8 years, but it can also occur in the adult, whom the renal manifestations are usually more severe in such patients. So usually the onset will follow an upper respiratory tract infection, and it is very similar in case of IgA nephropathy, the pathogenesis. So IgA nephropathy and Hino's-Sonnlein purpura are thought to be manifestation of same disease, but Hino's-Sonnlein purpura has manifestation in multiple sites. So multiple sites, and it will involve the kidney, it will involve the joints, it will involve the skin, it will involve the gastrointestinal tract, and also it can involve the lungs, and it can involve the central nervous system as well. So both have the similar manifestation of disease. Both have same disease but having different manifestations. Sorry, let me correct that. Right? So let us discuss about the morphology that we see in IgA nephropathy. So IgA nephropathy, as I already discussed, how do we see the morphology? We usually see the morphology in terms of light microscopy. Then we can go to electron microscopy, and then we can see immunofluorescence studies. So what do we see in light microscopy? So as I already said, the deposition of IgA antibody will occur in the mesangium. So let me make one glomerulus here. This is just a schematic diagram. This is a parietal epithelium, and here are our capillary loops. And in between the capillary loops, we have mesangial cells. So in between the capillary loop, we have mesangial cell. And as I said, the mesangial cell will have CD71 receptor, and antibody will target this receptor, and this will result into mesangial proliferation. See, there will be mesangial proliferation. So we should find the capillary loop and the mesangial proliferation here. So let us see this. So so this is one capillary loop, this is another capillary loop, this is one capillary loop, and in between the capillary loop, as you can see here, this you can see there has been mesangial proliferation. And mesangial proliferation means there will be mesangial matrix plus mesangial cells. So there is proliferation of mesangial matrix along with mesangial cell. We can see here, you can see here as well. And this is because of the IgA deposited mainly within the mesangium, and that has contributed to mesangial cellularity, as we can see in this diagram, right? So let us see in the electron microscopy, and even in electron microscopy, what we will find is that we'll be finding electron dense deposit in the mesangium. So we'll be finding electron dense deposit in the mesangium, as we have already seen in the light microscopy. And let us talk about the immunofluorescence study. As we have said that immunofluorescence study, what do we see in the immunofluorescence study is that we'll be seeing IgA antibody along with C3 deposited in the mesangium, and that will be a cloudy pattern or fluffy pattern. So fluffy deposit in the mesangium. See, so this has been deposited in the mesangium. Let me change the color. I hope you will see this. So you can see here there has been a cloudy or fluffy deposit within the mesangium, and this what if we search for this deposit, and we can find that it is usually IgA deposit, or it can be C3 deposited in the mesangium. Hence we can identify this by this mechanism via the histological parameters. And hence and by this we concluded about the Bursey disease. I hope you have understood most of the things about Bursey disease. But before concluding, I would like to give you a high yield point on the differential diagnosis as well. So first, as I said, the differential diagnosis between Bursey disease and Hino's-Sonnlein purpura. But let me also discuss one more fact about Bursey disease and about post streptococcal glomerulonephritis. So even as I said in PSGN, so it is due to group A beta amyloidosis streptococcus nephritogenetic strain 12, 4, and 1. And Bursey disease is due to IgA nephropathy. So there will be increased production of IgA. And in both, as I said, there has been a precedent. There will be pharyngitis, so pharyngitis or skin infection. And even in Bursey disease, there will be a history of there can be a history of pharyngitis. So because as I said, any mucosal inflammation or any mucosal infection, that will result into increased production of IgA, and this increased production of IgA will be deposited in the mesangium, and this will manifest with Bursey disease. So in post streptococcal glomerulonephritis also you can see pharyngitis, and even in Bursey disease you can get the history of pharyngitis. So whenever you see the history of pharyngitis, don't just think it is just post streptococcal glomerulonephritis. It can also be it can also be Buerger disease as well. And in IgA nephropathy, it is usually occurring in adults, whereas in post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, it is usually occurring in childs. So that is another difference in that. And in post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, there is a time lag, and this time lag is 10 to 14 days. So usually there will be a pharyngitis, and this pharyngitis after a period of 10 to 14 days will manifest with glomerulonephritis. Whereas in case of Buerger disease, there will be a history of pharyngitis, and this pharyngitis will manifest with glomerulonephritis in a period of about 2 days, and hence this is occurring one after another. Hence, this is all Buerger also known as synpharyngitic. So hence Buerger also known as synpharyngitic hematuria, also known as synpharyngitic disease. So so in this way, we can differentiate between post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis and Buerger disease on the basis of history, and we can easily differentiate them on the basis of their microscopic feature and the histological diagram as well. So this is all about Buerger disease and PSGN. So we must know all these facts about Buerger disease, and it is the most common cause of glomerulonephritis in adults. So thank you very much for your patient listening.